Alright, so second video today. This time we're dealing with negative fractions inside a two-step equation. Okay, so the first video I posted a few moments ago was solving two-step equations with a fraction, but that fraction was positive. This time I have a negative fraction. Okay, so we have 3 minus 2/3 x equals 9. Well, first step I need to do here, I want to rewrite the equation. I don't necessarily like this. I would like for the coefficient and the variable to be first in this case, and then the constant next, then equal to that 9 there, the other constant, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to rewrite the equation. So one thing that might be confusing is that this 3. Well, there's nothing in front of the 3, but we got 3 minus. So a lot of times, and a lot of things I've seen with students is that they think that, especially like with the expression part of this unit so far, they think that this 3 is a negative. Well, no, it's not necessarily, because if it was negative, it would actually indicate a negative sign out front. In this case, there's nothing there, so we can only assume that it's positive. Okay, so I'm gonna rewrite this equation as negative 2/3 x plus 3 equals 9. Okay, so these two are the same thing; they're equivalent. Okay, and we write this using the commutative property in that the signs stay with the term as we move everything around. Okay, so negative 2/3 x, or negative 2/3 times x plus 3 equals 9. Now we rewrote the equation, so we're good there. Now what we got to do next is get x by itself. In the last video, I stated that some students like to draw a river, which they learned in 6th grade. And they can do that as well. You can still do that as well if you'd like. Okay, so I'll do that just for the sake of this problem here. I don't necessarily do this, and I don't necessarily tell my students they have to do this, but either way it works. Okay, so I have one side must be equal to the other side, and we'll check our answer once we get to the very bottom. We have found our x. Okay, so first thing, get x by itself. Okay, in order to do that, we must subtract 3 from both sides. Okay, we're adding 3, so subtract 3 from both sides. Okay, now when it gets here, we have plus 3 minus 3, or just 3 minus 3. Okay, well, 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, so I'm not going to write 0. I'm just going to cross through it to know that it is gone. It has simplified to nothing, so no point in rewriting it, right? Okay, so I'm going to drop down the negative 2/3 x because I'm not getting rid of that negative 2/3 yet, okay? But I'm getting rid of that constant, which is that positive 3 on this left side, and then I'm essentially moving it to the right side, okay? So we got negative 2/3 x, 9 minus 3 is 6, okay? So this is a simplified version of this equation up here, as well as the one right here, which is we just rewrote, okay? So we got x by itself. By subtracting 3 from both sides. Now we got to multiply by the reciprocal to both sides. Okay, so I'm not necessarily going to worry about the negative sign right now. I'm just going to leave that term as a negative, and I will deal with that negative sign here in a few moments. Okay, so let's multiply by the reciprocal of this fraction. This fraction is 2/3. Okay, the reciprocal of that, or the opposite of that, is going to be 3/2, or 3/2. So I'm going to multiply 3/2 to the left side of the equation and to the right side of the equation. Okay, now we can simplify. Okay, let's check that off. Now let's simplify. Okay, so we got positive 3 times a negative 2, and a positive times a negative is going to be a negative. Opposite signs will make a negative. Okay, so negative 6 over 2 times 3, 6x equals, now I get to this point here. Okay, I got a whole number multiplied to a improper fraction. Okay, so I know how to multiply fractions. Okay, so in order to do that, I need to make the 6 a fraction as well, which I'm going to put a 1 underneath. Okay, so let's go ahead and multiply across. When we're multiplying fractions, multiply across, top times top, bottom times bottom. Okay, so 18 over 2, 6 times 3 is 18, 1 times 2 is 2. And this simplifies or down to 9 over 1, or just 9. Okay, so now we're left with negative 6 over 6 x equals 9. Well, in the last video, if you remember, or if you've watched the last video, a number divided by itself is 1. So this becomes negative 1x equals 9. So, or negative x equals 9. Okay, so we simplified. Got to this part here. I'm not done yet. Okay, the next thing is I need to move that negative sign. Okay, there's a whole way to do this. Okay, but just know that we don't want x to be negative. Okay, we want x to be positive. Positive's good, negative's not. Okay, so let's move that x, let's move that negative sign over here. Okay, in order to do that, I'm going to get rid of this negative sign by dividing, okay, because think of this, like negative, it's like negative 1 times x, okay? Well, to get rid of that, kind of like we did up here, okay? Except we're not multiplying by the reciprocal, we're going to divide by the number here. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 1, okay? This now becomes x, okay, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so we got positive x. Okay, now we have a positive divided by a negative, positive 9 divided by negative 1. That's the same thing as, to determine if it's a negative quotient or a positive quotient, okay, it's the same thing as multiplying positive, negative numbers. Positive times a positive is a positive, negative times a positive is a negative, negative times a negative is a positive, okay? So we have two opposite signs, a positive and a negative. So our answer should be negative, and 9 divided by 1 is 9. So it becomes x equals negative 9. Now, we moved the negative sign. Okay, now we got to check our answer. Okay, in order to do that, I'm going to take the negative 9, and I'm going to put it into this second equation that one that we rewrote. Okay, so it looks like negative 2/3 x plus 3 equals 9. And the reason why I've done that, because it just, to me, it looks better. You don't necessarily have to do it this way, but the way I teach my students is this way here, okay? So, I'm going to take negative 9, which is x, and I'm going to put it in place of x in this equation, okay? So I'm going to have negative 2/3 times negative 9 plus 3 equals 9, okay? So this side of the equation has got to balance this side of the equation. So this side has to be 9 because this side is going to remain 9 regardless, okay? So let's go ahead and do this here. So we got negative 2/3 times negative 9. Well, kind of like the situation up here. We had 6 times 3/2. I wrote 6 as a fraction, 6/1. I have negative 9, and write it as a fraction as negative 9/1. Okay, so we got negative 2/3 times negative 9/1. And I'm going to group those together so that way I know that they're together. I'm going to add 3 outside, and that is going to equal 9. Okay, so we get here. Order of operations. Do what's inside first, parentheses. Okay, inside the parentheses we're multiplying. Okay, negative times a negative, as I mentioned a minute ago, are going to be positive. Okay, so let's multiply across. 2 times 9 is going to be 18. 3 times 1 is going to be 3. Plus 3 equals 9. Okay, I'm going to come over here. I'll run out of room at the bottom here. So we got 18/3, or 18 divided by 3. Well, 18 divided by 3 is 6. So we got 6 plus 3 equals 9. Okay, and 6 plus 3 doesn't in fact equal 9, so 9 does equal 9. What I have here is a balanced equation. That means when x is negative 9, the equation is balanced. So we're good. And this is how you check your answer. Again, if you have any questions, my students ask me, or ask your peers first, then ask me. You may have to rewatch the video.